Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving deep into something called SEO crawling. It's all about how search engines find and, understand your website for the very first time. Getting this right is like nailing that perfect first impression. So, let's get into it. So picture this. You've poured your heart, your soul, maybe a little bit of your sanity into building a stunning website. It looks incredible, it works like a dream, but there's just one tiny problem. Nobody's visiting. It's like throwing a party and no one shows up. If you've ever felt like your site is just invisible online, then this is for you. The reason might be something happening completely behind the scenes, before anyone even gets a chance to see all your hard work. To really get our heads around this, we're going to use a pretty simple metaphor. I want you to think of your website as your house. And Google's crawler, you'll hear it called Googlebot, is a very, very important VIP guest who's coming over for a tour. And what's the point of this tour? Well, they're deciding if your house is good enough to be listed in their super exclusive worldwide catalog, which of course is Google's search results. Right, so before your site can even think about ranking on page 1, it has to pass this inspection from our VIP guest. And our job as the website owner is to be the perfect host. We've got to make sure that tour is smooth, that it's efficient, and that it shows off all the best rooms in our house. So, how in the world do we prepare for this huge visit? Let's start exactly where you'd expect, right at the front door. Every single website has this little thing called a robots.txt file. And you can just think of this as the welcome mat. It's the absolute first thing our VIP guest looks at to understand the rules of the house. This simple little text file, it tells search engine bots which rooms they're allowed to pop into and, just as importantly, which ones are off limits. Like your private admin pages or messy utility closets. It lays down the law for the tour before the guest even steps a foot inside. Okay, now look at this slide, because this is wild. It shows how one tiny change can have a massive, and I mean massive, impact. On the left, see that disallow with nothing after it? That's an open invitation. Welcome in, the door's open. But on the right, just by adding a single / disallow/1, well, that's like slamming the door, locking it, and putting up a giant do not enter sign. You're telling every crawler to just turn around and leave. This is one of the biggest SEO mistakes you can make. And believe it or not, it happens all the time, especially after a site redesign. Being a good host just means letting your guests see the house properly, right? I mean, if you block your CSS files, it's like hiding all your cool furniture and decorations. If you block your JavaScript, it's like you've turned off all the lights. Google can't see how amazing your house is. It just sees an empty, broken-down shell. The key here is to let it see everything that makes your site look good and work correctly. Okay, so our guest is inside. Now what? We can't just let him wander around aimlessly and get lost. A good host provides a map, a floor plan, to make the tours super easy and efficient. And in the world of SEO, that floor plan is your sitemap and your URL structure. Your sitemap is literally a map of all the important pages you want Google to check out. A good sitemap is complete, it's clean, which means no dead ends or old addresses, and you hand it directly to your guest by submitting it through Google Search Console. It's like personally giving them the floor plan to make sure they don't miss any of your best rooms. And here's the other part of your floor plan. The URLs themselves. A clean, descriptive URL is like a perfectly labeled hallway. Your guest knows exactly what's coming next. But a messy URL full of numbers and question marks, that's just a confusing maze. It doesn't help Google, and it sure doesn't help your users. All right. As our guest is walking through the house, every single door they try to open gives them a specific message. On the web, we call these HTTP response codes, and they are absolutely critical for a smooth tour. Think of it like this. A 200 OK code, that means the door swings open to a beautiful, ready room. Perfect. A 301 redirect politely says, oh, we've actually moved this room over here. Follow me. But a 404, not found, oof, that's a door that opens to a solid brick wall. And a 5x error is even worse. It's like the whole house is shaking and feels unstable. A site full of 404s and 500s just screams to Google that this is a neglected property it shouldn't be recommending. And you definitely don't want to send your VIP guest on a wild goose chase. That's what a redirect chain is. It's when one door points to another door, which points to another door, and so on. After a few of those hops, Googlebot is just going to get tired and give up. And that page and all the value it had just gets lost. We're getting near the end of our house tour, but there's one last, kind of confusing, potential disaster we have to talk about: the Hall of Mirrors. This is what happens when your website has a bunch of different URLs that all lead to the exact same content.
Seriously, just imagine your house had 4 identical front doors. Which one is the real one? Which one do you tell your friends to use? It's confusing, right? Well, that's exactly the confusion duplicate content causes for Google. It finds all these identical versions of the same page and has no idea which one is the main one it should rank. Now, as a person, you look at this list and you think, that's all the same thing. But not to Google. Nope. To a search engine, every single one of these variations is a separate, identical door. And when this happens, any authority or link juice your page has gets split between all these different versions, which totally weakens its power to rank for anything. The solution, thank goodness, is pretty straightforward. You just need to pick one. Pick one definitive version of your URL, that's your main door, and then use 301 redirects to make sure all those other versions automatically lead right to it. This basically consolidates all your ranking power into one single powerful place.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? When you boil it all down, your goal is simple: be the perfect host. Make Google's visit as easy, as clear, and as valuable as possible. A clean, well-structured, and technically solid website lets the crawler find your best stuff without hitting a single roadblock. Ultimately, it really all comes down to this: a site that is easy to get around, for bots and for humans, is the absolute foundation of good SEO. Without a successful crawl, nothing else matters. You just have to get this first step right.
So, I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about for your own site. What's the very first do not enter sign you need to check on your website's welcome mat? Go take a look at your robots.txt file. Is it welcoming your most important guest, or are you accidentally slamming the door in their face? Thanks for tuning in.